This happened on New Year's Eve of 2021 when I was 17 on a now deleted app. It was an app where you could talk to people all around the world without the fear of showing your face as you created your own animated avatar. Looking back, the app was a really enjoyable experience as I met people I'm still friends with today, but most people who used it could agree that it could get toxic. Many users, including myself, trolled parties, which were basically live streams where a host could allow 3 other people to be talking with them, and the party's guests could comment in the chat. One time, I was trolling a party when I was new to the app, and the host was, unbeknownst to me, quite notorious on the app, and already had a large following. Before this, I'd never heard of the host, although I knew a couple of her friends. Usually the people I trolled didn't have the reaction I wanted, i.e. arguing back. But this host starting arguing back, and we went back and forth for a while, with the party getting many guests, and the comments were going wild. After the party, I texted her on the app, going back and forth with her again, until we were full on beefing and I asked her to pull up. Really, I didn't want to fight this girl, because I was only arguing with her in the first place for shits and giggles, but she was taking me serious. She told me she lives in Chicago, and I live in Milwaukee. At the time, I was stupid and still had the mindset of a hood rat, so me pulling up to this girl wasn't far-fetched. I told her I'd meet her at her place if she was with it, and she accepted. I hopped in my car and put her address in the GPS. Not gonna lie, the apartment building she lived in looked sketchy, but I didn't really care. I brought my twin sister with me, just in case she had people with her to jump me. As we pulled up, I saw a girl who looked to be Hispanic and had sneakers and a hoodie on, so I presumed it was her because of her accent and her clothes. I told my sister to wait in the car because she looked to be alone. I ran up to her, and we started fighting. To be honest, I was getting the best of her when out of nowhere, some guy proceeds to pick me up and try to separate us. At first, I thought it was some kind of security of the apartment building, but he wasn't wearing any kind of uniform or anything. Actually, he looked quite a mess, looking back, and he reeked of alcohol too. He managed to somehow separate us even though at this point I was going batshit crazy and she was still trying to get little hits in. By this time, my sister came out of the car when she saw the guy getting involved. After we were separated, the guy literally starts dragging me to a rusty, beat-up black Honda that was parked nearby. I started fearing for my life and screamed my sister's name. She came sprinting, but the guy had already opened the trunk and threw me in. I was kicking and screaming, but he was really strong and managed to shut the trunk. My heart practically stopped when I felt the car speed off. I can still remember my sister's screams for help. We drove for 5 minutes, and I'm claustrophobic, so I was frantically trying to get out the tiny trunk. I was texting my sister, and luckily she informed me she had called the police already, and she was following the car. After a few minutes, the car stopped, and he lifted the trunk and dragged me by my hair into some house that looked run down and dirty from the outside. He practically threw me into the house, and I saw my sister running after the guy with a baseball bat we brought, just in case anything bad happened. She managed to get one good hit on the man with the bat, but he kicked her off and locked the door. Even though I heard sirens nearby, I was still terrified of what he was going to do to me. He dragged me into some room in the back of the house, and the whole time I was fighting him off as best I could. The police burst in a couple seconds later, however, and tackled the man. Surprisingly, he didn't resist, and was quite calm, letting them handcuff him. I was reunited with my sister, and in that moment I realized how precious life can truly be. Ever since that day, I changed for the better. Me and my sister no longer beef with anyone, and we've definitely grew up in the past year. I never told anyone what happened, not even my friends, as I was afraid no one would believe me. So, if there's anything to take away from the story, it's to not make dangerous decisions like I did that day. Recently, I moved back to England with my sister, and we both go to an amazing college here. I hope y'all stay safe and have a Merry Christmas and an even better New Year. When I was around 12, I spent New Year's Eve at my friend's house whilst our parents went out to a restaurant in a nearby town. The house was old and pretty isolated, and to be honest, scared the crap out of me. You had to drive up a long, overgrown track to reach it. A lot of my other friends at school would say the house was haunted, and it was actually featured in a ghost book, if I remember. So anyways, we were sat downstairs in the lounge watching some TV and heard the loudest crashing sound. I still remember the look in my friend's eyes when we turned to each other in shock. It took us a while to get up and actually go and investigate what the sound was. We crept out of the lounge down the hallway to the rest of the house. The crashing sounded like it came from upstairs, so we headed up to check it out. When we got to the top of the stairs, there was a breeze coming from somewhere. It was cold, like ice cold. We moved down the hallway upstairs towards the wind and turned to go down another corridor. Bear in mind, this house was massive. At the end of the corridor was his mom and dad's bedroom. The door was moving back and forth slowly. We both stopped and just stood still, frozen, not saying a word to each other. After a moment, my friend walked towards the door. I was still frozen in fear and fell behind a little. As he pushed the door open and snuck into the room, the darkness consumed him. I could barely make out his silhouette. There was perfect silence for a couple of seconds before I heard him let out the most terrifying scream. My adrenaline kicked in and I ran towards the room to see what had happened. I searched for the light and turned it on. He was stood, frozen stiff and pale, just staring into an empty corner of the room. Just to the side of him was a massive antique mirror that was smashed into pieces and scattered all over the floor. I placed my arm on his shoulder and asked him if he was okay. "She broke the mirror." I asked him who broke it. He said, "The woman in the corner." At that point, I was honestly petrified and told him we should leave. He turned to leave with me. Just before we did, I wanted to check the mirror. Surely the wire had broken or something, I thought to myself. I bent down to the mirror and turned it over. The string that was holding it to the wall was intact. It hadn't snapped. I looked at the wall. The nail was still firmly fixed in the wall. At that point, I was so terrified, I told him to call his parents and tell them to come home. We waited outside the front door until our parents arrived back from the restaurant. Our dads went straight up to the bedroom to check it out when they arrived and saw the broken mirror. They sort of pushed it off and said we were up to no good and playing a game that got out of hand. After that night, my friend never really spoke about it to me. The worst part is that recently I was having a general chat with my mom, and as New Year's coming up, that night came up. I told her about it and she said, "I believe you." Your friend's mom told me a few days after that night that she had seen a ghostly white woman in her room telling her to leave the house. It honestly sent my whole body tingling, and I had flashbacks to that night, although it's coming up to almost 12 years ago now.